that we can go ahead and that we can use. Also, also the thing about also with pop culture. And we'll talk about that. And Randall, game-based learning designer. Yes. So anything that's fun, I'm sure. Okay. So let's go over this. You can go ahead and start, Chris.
Sure. So our overview will be looking at what is work-based learning. We'll then describe what are K-dramas, J-dramas, and C-dramas. How do you access them? We'll also talk about webtoons or web cartoons and anime. And we'll also go ahead and talk about our favorites and why. So we'll talk a lot about that as we go on in this presentation. As Kay said, it's all about K-dramas. So yeah. So first up is, what is work-based learning? So how many of you are familiar with the term work-based learning, or WBL? You can put Y or N in the chat.
And this is okay. So this is kind of, I don't want to call it the boring part, but this is the justification part. Okay? This is the part where if you have to convince a faculty member, if you have to convince a chair or dean, this is the part where you go, okay, well, actually, this is work-based learning. These are epistemic frames that help the students know how to behave in these communities and see and through, even though it's entertainment, get a glimpse into a very kind of procedural look at a workspace. Yes.
It's the admin justification from your friendly neighborhood dean. So work-based learning really took off in Perkins 5. So this is a Carl D. Perkins approval process. It was called the Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act. And this was Congress recertifying Perkins funding. Perkins funding is what is used for career and technical education at the K-12, based at the high school, middle school, high school, and the community college level. So 2-year level and technical college level. So these fund a lot of program innovations. It's a standard grant. There's strings attached. There's certain things you have to do. And for this version of the approval, the focus was on work-based learning and what everyone needed to do to go ahead and do work-based learning. So they provided a nice helpful toolkit for everybody to go ahead and start looking at what you're going to do for work-based learning. And the idea was that we'd improve our classroom learning and instruction if we more closely connect our curriculum to the actual work environment and the actual work guidelines that are there. So the idea behind this is heavy industry involvement in your curriculum with your advisory board. I put the link in the chat so that way you can feel free to read through it at your leisure. That's there. It's also used for WOES funds, which used to be called TANF funds. Various vocational rehabilitation funds have fallen under the WOEA fund area, and so there's lots of other implications of where this falls through. Next up, we have, how does our state here in Colorado take it? Really, we looked at it as our administrators looking at it from a continuum. So the idea is you start over here you do an initial assessment of where you're at for each of your classes. And you look at the very basic foundational level is learning about work. So these are things that most of us are familiar with: career counseling, career planning, career fairs, career presentations, industry speakers, informational interviews, mentoring, worksite tours, project-based learning. These are all tied to the one side of the curriculum, and you see it says education coordinated, which means that the actual department itself, the chair, the faculty member is the one who's mainly coordinating this. And the idea is through the life of Perkins 5, all of our colleges and high schools are going to start navigating their way from this end of the curriculum to the right, where local businesses are taking a lead on what's going on. And so the idea here is the middle ground is learning through work. So this is clinicals, this is credit for work, or provider learning assessment, internships, pre-apprenticeships, industry-sponsored projects, supervised entrepreneurial experiences. And then lastly, we have the final phase, which is learning at work, which this is really about cooperative education. When you think about that, this is apprenticeships, this is on-the-job training, this is employee development, where we're actually working really closely with the industry, and they're saying, hey, for this module or for this type of assessment that you're doing, you're engaging industry leaders in your area of discipline to go ahead and say, yes, this is what we use for, like, say, this is our demo requirement for anyone who comes onto the job site, or this is a standard test we use for testing competency of students, of any applicant who comes in. Let's modify this so it fits into your HR class or your business class or whatever other class you run into. And so that's really sort of what you see here with work-based learning. The focus is, number one, getting students to learn about what it's like to work. Number two, getting them engaged into the industry. And number three, getting them in the workforce and while they're still students and working their way through, which is normal for us at the community college level because the majority of our students are already working adults.
So to focus this down for our presentation, we would be talking about the learning about work. Okay? So that's the part. So what we want to show you about K-dramas, and you can go and you can take a look at all these resources, but what we want to talk to you about K-dramas is how you can get a snippet into a workplace, and how we're seeing these K-dramas, C-dramas, and J-dramas are doing it more than, say, American or European based shows. The examples up here, this first one, the first one that up there is called, and you can't see it because it's in Korean unless you read Korean. That's the auditors. Okay, so this is looking at a audit group and accountants that are internal to a big corporation, and what does an audit team do? And then the Oshi no Ko one, very fun one. This is actually based on an anime, but the reason why it's there is I used it, a little clip from it this semester, about people working over Zoom. Inside of this, there's just this small part where the person who has written a novel has to convert it into a screenplay, and then it just shows the back and forth that the person who's the screenwriter has to work with the novelist, and they do all this work over Zoom. And it was just a really good clip that I could put into my students going, look, you're in the creative industries. Guess what? The idea that everybody's showing up in the writer's room to work on the screenplay is happening less and less. Instead, people are collaborating over Zoom. And then this last one, Brocade Odyssey. This is a Chinese period drama. The thing about it is, there are a lot of Chinese period dramas that show basic business skills with Chinese cultural characteristics. But despite that, there's a lot of these startups that show inherent, like, this is how you do marketing. There's some very, very clever marketing that happens inside Brocade Odyssey. So I decided to use this.
I was gonna say there's a lot of insert the nation cultural characteristics.
Yeah, yeah, that we do have to kind of discuss. So
Yep.
this is what we mean by K drama, C drama, J drama. And
And
and go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, exactly. The letter it just indicates which country. So K drama is Korea, South Korea, C is China or Taiwan, and J is Japan.
And the thing and the thing about it is, I will tell you that we show these students, we don't show dubbed in English. We show students we have the original language, and then it's with the English subtitles underneath it. Those are the clips that we show. And in the business and creative industries, we also have incorporated translanguaging and opportunities to do things in languages other than English, even assignments from the students. If it's a video, they just have to, they just have to put English captions on it, and we're accepting those for projects. So it's up to the students, but we're bringing in especially the workplace, because I'm teaching in business in the creative industries. I think if I go like that, you'll see. And there's a lot of K dramas, C dramas, and J dramas that I can take clips and snippets from.
Exactly, and that's really what it comes down to. As we said it earlier, epistemic frames, and really that's what you see with the modern genres and even the historical ones as well. Where you look at it's set in a workplace and model work-based learning skills and durable skills. So these are other skill sets that a lot of folks are now adopting as well. Durable skills, we don't call them soft skills anymore. These are durable skills that last for that are used in a wide variety of things and include both what was traditionally thought of as soft and hard skills that are there. And so typically the frameworks that you have here are entrepreneurial, so someone starting up a business, job seeking, someone trying to find a job, fresh out of college looking for a job in a tight job market. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
And then there's something called part-timer hell, uh, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's all the people who are struggling uh, and working multiple gig works, lots of different side hustles, everything else that's out there to try to make ends meet while they try to get that full-time job. Then there's a whole lot of side hustles that are out there. And then there's also a whole subset of executive leadership, with the Kaiballs, as well as other people who own businesses or conglomerates. So you also have that whole set of the executive C-suite. And you're looking at succession, you're looking at all the stuff that's going on. And so these are all wonderful, great mergers and acquisitions are in there. And like I said, the earlier Kay brought up the auditors, which is one of my favorite programs. And the reason is because it actually shows the actors doing audits. And having to go to companies and do audits at the company and what it's like. And it also shows like some of the corner cutting and other things. Now, obviously, some things are, definitely um, exploded or dramatized or hyperbolic applications of these things, but a lot of it shows basic issues that you run into from an accounting, like ethics. Another big huge thing, ethics is a huge part of this, where people are tempted all the time. Do you cut corners? Do you try to, someone's asking for a bribe, what do you do? Like there's all this stuff here that you run into that you then can have the students work. And again, business has a lot of applications to these, but the idea behind this is that this is the learning through work. This is really going ahead and seeing what are internships might be like, what are apprenticeships, what are supervised entrepreneurial experiences like, what are industry sponsored projects, because all of them show up in these genres and in these dramas. And again, the drama may be focused mostly on a romance or a personal relationship, but the thing is the background is them working in a workplace and them going through a lot of these epistemic frames that a lot of our students haven't experienced yet, or they're hoping to go in and trying to let them build a learning experience from it. So that's really sort of where the other administrative justification is the buzzword there is epistemic frame, where you're looking at how do these specific videos or these specific snippets that we're showing embody what the student's going to have to engage in and think about, and make them think critically about how would they react if they were in the situation that this person is put in. And so like that's one of the biggest things that these bring forward for education. The other thing that Kay talked about as well is that they also deal with a lot of things, like some of the ones will deal with IP issues, like someone will be asking people for proposals, and the whole idea is they just want ideas because they can't come up with an idea themselves. So they get a whole bunch of small companies to submit proposals, and then they steal someone's proposal. So like, how does that small company react? How do they go ahead and try to protect that piece? And so those are all things to think about that are there. So where can you find them? You can find them on Netflix. You can find them on Amazon Prime. And then my personal favorite, probably Kay's personal favorite, is Vicky. And I can let Kay tell you why she likes Vicky.
Okay. So there's another thing that I haven't mentioned. I was a linguist in the military. So that's why I can't handle dubbed. Okay. And none of my other friends who were linguists can handle like dubbed. We're always like, no, the subtitles. And the subtitles on Viki are the best. Amazon Prime uses AI, and oh my gosh, you can just see it. Okay, Netflix isn't, Netflix usually uses like one translator. Okay, Vicky, Vicky, and I know this is a little bit exploitative, but Vicky gets volunteers from the community who translate the actual translates the actual shows. So it's always a team of translators doing it. And the other thing is Vicky also, like, with different different sayings or expressions, they will define it more to you. And especially like in the Chinese shows, a lot of things like, oh, that's a saying and it means this. That's why saying, oh, someone's saying it. And so you get like these, not huge, but just these little annotations.
Well, especially like for the C dramas, it's really interesting because there'll be these little idioms that are used, and then like the reference note is, oh, this refers to this, eighth century poem that's used on everyone's humanities class. So like there's all these different pieces that are there.
Yeah, Brandon, and yeah, anime went through a thing where everything ended up being dubbed. I put anime in a different kind of category. I will tell you, for anime, some of the things I end up watching is like it's not dubbed in English, and it's dubbed in German, and I end up watching it, like with the German dubs. Yeah, and Kristen, prefers C dramas on YouTube for the annotations. Yeah, I like the annotations and everything that we're talking about. These little clips, we find them on YouTube. The little clips, we find them on YouTube. A lot of the C dramas and the K dramas, and some of the J dramas too, have the series on YouTube. I'll usually watch them on Viki, and then does that make it legal to show? Now, here's the question: is how much am I showing? I can tell you, I am showing a very short percentage of it. So when it comes to, I'm not showing an episode. I'm not showing half an episode. I'm showing 2 to 3 minutes at the most. Now, of course, because they're on YouTube, they could always go down. But you play that game when it comes to open educational resources too. I'd rather use something really, really good for 2 semesters and have to go look for something else So Stacy, most of this, most of this, can meet the less than 10% when it comes to intellectual, property rights. Mm, when it comes if you're something in full length now, yes, intellectual and copyright, you have to abide by the intellectual and copyright. Yeah. So percentage wise, it meets it because it's a little clip and the students aren't going to be paying for that show anyway. So under most standards, it would meet. The webtoon, webtoons or anime, a lot of not possible in real life and more epistemic frames. Okay, so you got a quote there.
I got lots of stuff there.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, well, I had to cite my sources. We're talking about IP and copyright here.
Mm.
So, the official definition of webtoons are they're serialized digital comics originally created in South Korea. It's now expanded throughout Southeast Asia, and Asia in general. Most of the initial authors or illustrators were out of work during the 1997 financial crisis, which is an interesting bit of trivia. And the interesting thing about webtoons is they are specifically designed for phone or computer screen deliverable. So what it is they're designed specifically to scroll. And unlike in the US where we do horizontal orientation, they do vertical orientation. So the idea is you're scrolling down using your thumb a lot, getting a thumb workout as you're scrolling down, reading through the webtoons. And the idea is that each episode will take you less than 5 minutes to read. And so these are serialized, so almost daily. So this is one of yes, exactly. Takes all your free time. Yes. So webtoons are one of those type of things where you're going ahead and you're flipping through them. They're really, really quick. They're typically daily submissions, and then they build up throughout the years, because some of these have been going on since 1997. So I've been there for a while. And so overall, webtoons as an industry is valued at over 1 trillion won, or that's 688 million, and that's just for the webtoons apps and stuff like that itself. It also has become a foundation of Korean storytelling. It doesn't account that amount of money does not account for licensing for all of the C dramas and J dramas to be built off of webtoons, because a lot of them are out there. And of course, anime. Inside of Japan, anime is anything that's animated. Is considered anime. However, outside of Japan, we typically look at Japanese. It's a Japanese animation style of comic, an animated movie that comes from Japan. So there's a slight difference that's there. Um, Anime also includes manga. Those are the graphic novels and paper based. Some of you may have manga. And like I said, if you don't know if you've ever heard these or not, have you ever heard of Pokemon? Or Speed Racer or Dragon Ball? You have you've been introduced. If you have, you've been introduced to the world of anime and possibly manga. So like those are the main titles that are out there. There's millions and millions of titles. Anime is a much bigger market because it has been adopted longer by the West for consumption, and it was estimated at $34.2 billion, with a consistently projected growth of 9.8% through 2030. So those are one of the things that you run into when you're looking at anime. So these are very, very large scale resources that you have of availability, and it also allows you to address any sort of global. The other thing I just thought of is I'm going, you could also address any sort of global or cultural competency that you have in your classes by
Yeah.
introducing these pieces as well. So that's something else you can look at if you need an additional justification that's out there.
And we've been having a side chat about
Mhm.
the 4 factors for fair
Yes.
use. And And really what it comes down, when it comes down to what we're using it for, is it is what percentage. And there's not a numerical percentage. People will tell you there's not an official numerical percentage, but it's supposed to be less rather than more, and we're doing less. Yeah. And the other thing about it is we are giving commentary on it also.
Yeah, and that definitely the third one there was it's a copyrighted work as a whole, especially for webtoons and anime. Many of these are like they could be for 5 years or decades worth of material. So anything that you use is typically going to be very, very small, percentage wise. If everyone here is in a nonprofit college, that would fit in there as well. But I will say that some of the for-profit companies are pushing back on fair use, which is why a lot of people are, a lot of your legal departments are being a little more picky in their definitions of what is required for fair use than they have in the past. You can thank the yep.
Yep.
No, we've lost Stacy. No.
Okay, so we'll continue on because we've hit more than the halfway mark. So we'll show you
Well,
some
that's
of our
good because now we're in our favorites, and you can share your favorites as well.
Okay, so we'll show you a couple of these. So Chris, if you can play the videos, we'll play this whole one and then I'll talk about it. So go ahead, show it.
Breathe in 숨을 내쉬고 두려움에 맞설 때 내게 들려온 한마디 조금 더 힘을 내라고 안개 속에 가려져 한 줄기 빛도 없이 고민하고 또 고민했었어 오늘의 나를 위해서 남과 다른 시선에 또다시 뒤처지는 그런 날들에 반대로 나를 일으켜 달려나가 지금부터 시작해봐 앞을 달려 Running running 세상에 소리쳐 막다른 길이 나타나도 난 괜찮아 지금부터 시작해봐 앞을 달려 Running running 너와 함께라면 모든 날 속 있어 끝없이 달려봐 거친 세상 속 삶이 나를 누르고 점점 버거워질 때 내게 건네온 그 손길 한 번 더 일어나라고 때론 울기도 하고 때론 소리치지만 내겐 절대로 지울 수 없는 나만의 중심이 있어 남과 다른 시선에 또다시 뒤처지는 그런 날들에 반대로 나를 일으켜 달려나가 지금부터 시작해봐 앞을 달려 Running running 세상에 소리쳐 막다른 길이 나타나도 난 괜찮아 지금부터 시작해봐 앞을 달려 Running running 너와 함께라면 모든 날 속 있어 끝없이 달려봐 거친 세상 속 서로에게 지원인 너와
You can cut it crazy. Okay, you get the idea. Here's the idea. I teach design thinking. One of the methodologies for designing things is a hackathon. Okay, so this gives a decent snippet. And the other thing about it, you'll notice that it's study motivation. So a lot of the K-drama shows for business, and also a lot of the K-drama shows for for students who are medical students, you'll see that there's a lot of YouTube videos that'll show, oh, this is, like this is inspiration when you need to study for things for medical. And Randall, I agree. The business presentations in the scene. So episodes 5, if you teach business, marketing, leadership, watch episode 5 on Netflix to look at all these different great snippets that you can see. Okay, so Chris, off to the next one. This one's also it's also a good one for intellectual property because one of the teams steals ideas from the other team too. So this
Well, the other thing I was going to say is it's also the whenever you run into it is the cram culture
mhm.
that you see in a lot of these. The cram school culture is amazing. To see that from an instructional quality, and also some of the different tactics that they're using to gain, to get more students in their class, to raise awareness of their ability that's there. So I mean, that's another area that's there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to say we'll do another session someday on cram culture as horror. So Chris, go to the next one. Okay, so this is episode 1 of Another Miss Oh. It's a K-drama, but there's also a Thai one. That's like another misploy. But here's how I use it. This is me posting it in the class. Um, you know, this is how a sound director creatively adds audio. This is a multimedia class. Students are just being introduced to things. And like I say, audio is often, like video is often the star, right? So so the visuals often the star. This is audio. And while Chris, I say it starts at 44 seconds, don't play it for the full just play it for like a minute
Okay.
so that people can get to it. So, and if you
Here we
go from
go.
there, if you go from there, make sure it starts at the second 44. No, you're gonna have to skip. So yeah, that's a good start to it, like 44. Okay.
그저 바라보는 시선이 무거워 맴도는 발걸음 여전히 네가 보고 싶어 I need your mind I remember 차가웠던 그날 자꾸 떨리는 내 가슴이 혼자 울까봐 눈을 뜨면 희미해져버린 꿈처럼 놔줘 그게 아니면 곁에 있어줘 무거워진 어깨 내게 보이면
Okay, Chris, cut it. Okay, so you get the idea. This, like I said, this is to inspire my students, and really, it is about the creativity. So let's go to the next one, and this will be the last one we show you. Oh, agency. Okay, so we teach conceptualization. This is on agency. Somebody absolutely clipped it for me. So it was just waiting for me saying, trash these ideas. So go ahead, show it.
광고주 돈으로 여지껏 예술들 하셨네.
그리고 이쪽을 보시면 저희 팀원들이 러프하게 잡아본 방향들입니다.
잘 나가는 소리 좀 하고 앉아있네. 이 PT가 얼마나 중요한 PT인지 몰라?
저 CD님 그래서 최대한 5G ICT 통신의 미래로 준비했는데
라스베가스 CES 행사 홍보 영상 만들 거야? 그 기술 누가 쓰는데? 결국 사람 아니야? 기업이 가진 기술? 그 잘난 척 왜 소비자들이 봐야 되는데?
붙이려다 버린 방향인데?
최상무 총회 받는 권CD 팀 적당히 이겨서 될 것 같아? 압도적으로 이겨야 상부 자리!
CD님 다시 하겠습니다.
내일부터 매일 이 시간 회의.
네.
예.
비딩 끝날 때까지 집에 갈 생각하지 마.
저기요! 아, CD님.
설명해봐.
Okay, Chris, you can go ahead and stop it there. Okay, so for my design students, there's a lot of things like they come out and say a Las Vegas CES show. You know, that's one of the biggest trade shows in the technology electronics world. It happens every January. They have that in it. When she said we're doing a meeting every day, that's the daily stand-up meeting or daily huddle or daily scrum. Kristen said, I'd put in the resignation if my supervisor started tearing papers off the wall. Chris, you could go ahead and go to the next slide because you'll see what I write for it. So go to the next one. There it is. It's a bit extreme, but it's not unheard of. And the other part of it that I'm trying to emphasize to my design students is iteration. And quite honestly, the students that we get in the Bachelor's of Applied Science, the multimedia students get iteration. The students who come from other areas, they're not used to the iteration, like to take no offense that the first thing you came up with wasn't loved by everyone, and that you constantly do iterations, and especially that's really focusing on it's a marketing team. It's especially focusing on the person who's the copyright, and that you might have to come up with 50 ideas until somebody finds the one. Yes, a more compassionate way to complete a peer review. But Brandon, I'm going to go at the same time. They are under a deadline, under a competition. They got to quickly get through those ideas. I'm not sure that I would do what she did, but maybe I would go up with a like a green highlighter and circle the ones that should continue. And ask that the others be taken down. Okay, we'll continue on because we don't have a lot of time.
Sure, and our last one is Sword Art Online, or the C drama, 8 hours. Explore privacy and autonomy in a metaverse. SK?
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah. These are some nice some nice ones when to start thinking about technology, virtual reality, and where we might end up. There's some good anime, there's some other ones out there. They show up a lot in these. There's even some genres that there's also some genres that are straight up esports ones. Okay, so do we have anything left, Chris, or are we kind of done?
Just have your keep the internet weird.
Okay, keep the internet weird. Okay, so and we got 5 minutes for any discussions, questions, or anything else. And thank you everybody for putting comments and other things in there. I guess our main point is you can love these and bring them into your classroom too. and you also have a justification. You really need to watch that show to see what parts you can bring into your classroom. That's the excuse I I use.
I feel like my takeaway is that, as people, we have very interesting and seemingly unrelated interests that have nothing to do with our jobs, and maybe there's more connection than what we see on the surface.
Yeah, I would say so. And I mean, as a learning designer, I always pull in something from I take pictures on my phone constantly that I don't know what I'm going to use them for, but then something will come up. I constantly do that. So that's how I justify being interested in everything. Any other thoughts or questions or anything like that? We just thought this one would be fun, and we started with the work-based learning so that if you had to, you could point back to it, looking at that one that one side of the continuum, like, oh, we're on this side of the continuum with this. We're just introducing this to them. Oh, commitment, constant improvement, and interpersonal skills. Yeah, the discussions of those show up all the time in a lot of these dramas. And like I said, I'm just seeing like that American and European shows don't focus on a lot of what worked for me in the business skills.
I also included a link to durable skills, and I forgot to add that earlier.
Okay. So Kristen said some of the Chinese dramas. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. You just go, oh, these are imperial politics. Okay. I will tell you some C dramas that I watched with Chris. I wouldn't want him to be the emperor because because he doesn't seem to have a tolerance for a lot of things. Oh, thank you, Randall. We'd love to go and look at that. Oh, Melanie, I have a hard time switching my brain from using anime and dramas into learning method into oh yeah, Kristen. He he's like, why are you letting them live? And the thing of it is, Melanie, give it some time. Next year I'd love to do a session. I'm planning on doing a session about how and everybody's gonna who knows these terms are gonna laugh. How isekai can be used to teach quantum computing and quantum physics. I seriously believe we can, we can show entanglement through through characters who get swept away to another world. That's my thought. Chris said that the group wasn't ready for it just yet. Oh, Randall, what's your favorite K-drama just for entertainment? Okay, Chris had it up. my favorite, one of my favorite K-dramas. Oh, first of all, I love K-dramas that do zombies. Absolutely. Train to Busan is, like is a heartfelt one. But if I have to go, I love Kingdom. I love Kingdom. Here's why. You get Joseon Dynasty, you get zombies, you get all the killing, just like a Chinese imperial palace setting. And it's just like when they do the different scenes there, that's gotta be my favorite. Okay. I also like a lot of the supernatural ones. And I like that the K-dramas don't try to over explain things. While if I'm watching a C drama that has something supernatural that's in a modern setting, they'll spend way too much time trying to, it seems to me, to try and explain it. It's like when I watch the K dramas, it's like, everybody accept this is supernatural. Of course there's reapers here that'll take you to the afterworld. Why wouldn't there be reapers here? Yeah. So yeah, Kingdom is my favorite.
I also like Reborn Rich was really well done.
Oh my God, Reborn Rich. Oh, awesome. Yeah.
If you wanna revisit the 80s, the 90s, and
So, and a lot of the K-dramas do have romance, and I have a weak Western heart, so the romance things sometimes I don't watch till the end, because I'm like, no, this is just gonna be misery, and I'm not gonna do misery. The other thing, the genre that I'm starting to watch with K-dramas, and we'll be done soon, is I'm starting to watch all the school ones, the high school and the studying for the exams, and like Chris said, the cram culture. I'm starting to watch those, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a horror genre. And I just find it amazing. Oh, Kristen, I look things up to see how it's going to be at the end, because there's so many C dramas that they're okay with killing everybody off. Oh yeah. Oh,
yeah,
and
the wrong way to use healing magic is hilarious if you watch that one. And also the one I'm really watching right now is Solo Leveling.
yeah, Solo Leveling just ended. There's supposed to be a third season. Okay, thank you everyone, and thank you for listening to these ramblings. We'd like to do a salon, or maybe we'll check out what you recommended, Randall. I don't want to duplicate if she's doing a wonderful podcast, but maybe at some point we will do we will do a podcast. Oh, and Kristen, I don't know if you watch Avenue X for the reviews of C dramas, but I absolutely love watching her YouTube channel. I don't agree with her, but most of the time I still love things she loves that she doesn't like, and hate things that she loves. But I love watching Avenue X. Okay, bye.
Bye, all.
Oh, okay, Randall. Okay, thanks. Bye bye, everybody. We're off to our next.